we are going to have a panel discussion. And before we move on, there's something I want to do together with you all because I know the energy you are sitting all the time. So now is a treasure hunting game. So find a coin under your seat, please. For every seat. So it's more at the front side. Yes. So please, everybody should have a coin. Yes. Yes, exactly. The value is not the same. Okay. Does everybody have your coin? Okay. Front row might not, because speaker seat might not. Okay. All right. So this coin, please keep it well till the end of this session, because maybe a small context. I thought of this idea just this morning. So I actually broke the piggy bank for my son, who is 7 years old. So no, with his consent, of course. But I need to bring things back tonight. So that's more idea. Okay. So this is a token. Please keep it for now, and then listen to our panel, and we will do an exercise later. But keep it, please. Okay. So for the next part of our session, we will have a panel discussion because I think our keynote speakers, Statina, what we've seen in the market. And now I'm going to invite our amazing speakers on the stage. I will first give a short introduction because the way we design this panel has a reason. So we have different angles bringing into this panel discussion. So we have the investor perspective from the growth phase. So Fortino, so Alexandra Fortino. So she's more from the B2B software investor perspective. And then we also have Yannick from Mutares, and he will bring in a different perspective because he is helping a lot of distressed companies to turn around, and he managed a lot of complex IT transformations. I think Luke just had the presentation about modernization, refactoring, and the transformation. So I think that's his part of the game for Yannick. And we have Abhishek, who just also ask questions, and he is a tech founder. He has also experience in Silicon Valley as well as here in Amsterdam, and he's amazing, I think, growing tech venture. It's helping our future generations about AI. So we will give a room for them to describe. But first, big hands to welcome our guest speakers panel. Thank you. Oh, okay, more to because I will, so then, is that the idea? No? Okay. So then you can sit closer. So, yes. Okay. All right. Picture moment. Okay. Okay. Good. So thank you all for joining actually us today. Beautiful Amsterdam weather. I think I think that gives a different vibe. Before we jump into this panel discussion, I think the title is about future-proofing software, turning complexity into value, because we are thinking about value, and we know, I think we just heard, it's quite a complex world that we are now operating, right? A lot of different challenges. So would you like to take turns first about what is your role and what is your day-to-day activities maybe? So should we start with you, Abhishek?
Sure. So I'm the founder at JetLearn. JetLearn is an AI company which actually helps teenagers to learn about AI and robotics. We are the biggest in this space in Europe. And what I'm most proud of is that we are the top-rated company on Trustpilot and Google reviews when it comes to e-learning. My previous background has been in software. Worked in two Silicon Valley companies. Both were actually acquired by one by a French company, one by a German company. But my first love was always around education and kind of merging a couple of patents in AI also. But my first love was always about merging AI, tech, and education. So I'm very happy to be the founder of JetLearn. My day-to-day work is trying to talk to a lot of customers. I have a really good team now, so I don't need to run a lot of the day-to-day in the software side or the operational side. But I talk to a lot of customers.
Yeah.
And I think even though we are a young company, we are also undergoing a transformation because technologies have changed so much in the last 3 years that even our tech stack, which is very fresh, I think needs to change now. So I'm also looking at a lot of this. How do we bring more AI foundation into our tech stack?
Yeah. Thank you. I think that navigating through the tech stack and it's pretty resonating with what Picnic just shared as well. So thank you. And Alexandra, so how about you?
Yes, I'm Alexandra de Klerk. I'm part of the investment team at Fortino Capital. Fortino is a B2B software investor, so we focus only on B2B software. And within that, I'm part of our investment team. So my focus is either on speaking to founders, finding new interesting companies, or spending time with my portfolio companies. I think it was also mentioned before, but we do spend more and more time on operational improvement. So that's also where a lot of our time is spent, both from the investment team, but also from an operational perspective.
Yes. Thank you. And Yannick?
I'm Yannick. So as you can hear, I'm French, based in Paris. I worked at Mutares, a PE, a private equity, German-based private equity company. The business model at Mutares is to buy distressed companies, restructure the companies, and sell them for more when we are successful. In this context, as an IT director, my job is to first support the M&A team or investment team in the IT/tech due diligence. But this is, let's say, 5-10% of my time. Most of my time is spent on the ground, on site with the companies. First, to manage the carve-out, because we are buying companies from larger groups usually, and also restructure the IT function, especially when we buy tech companies. We mostly buy automotive companies. This is our expertise at Mutares. But from time to time, we go outside of the automotive world. And let's say, for example, that last year I spent 1 year working with Stuart. You probably don't know this company, but this is a French company in the food delivery. Not just like Picnic, the presentation we had before, but Stuart is more a competitor of Deliveroo and Uber Eats, or a company like that. So I also have from time to time to be interim CTO, interim CIO to restructure the tech functions of the company we are buying.
Thank you. And Yannick, I feel like you are one of the people I know who fits very well in the profile of the movie Up in the Air. So yeah, we will have more stories from you later. And now, because today we are here also to talk about software value. But what does that actually mean, right? Software value can mean very different things from different phase of the investment, different roles, founder role or investment role. So I will start with the founder role maybe. So yeah, what does actually software mean to you? And because you also helped actually our future generations to learn, right, about software and so.
So as a founder, what keeps me going is the value I can create in my customers, my stakeholders, right? So we are a premium product, and if a customer pays us a premium pricing and they're happy making that investment, that's what value is for me, right? Like people buy Apple, they're happy making it. That's what is value for me. But we also have investors, so some of them look at, traditional, the usual metrics, right? What are the profitability, LTV, CAC, etc. But I think from the previous discussion, a lot of our investors are also looking at the impact we are making. So that is also, some of them look at both. I would say all of them do look at financial metrics, but some of them also place a huge weight on the impact that we are creating. Are we helping the next generation? Are we solving a real problem, which is access to AI education, which can have potential big impact on humankind? So I think this is the way I look at, what gives me energy is the value I can create for my customers. I can show that I'm creating for my customers, but our investors are looking at financial metrics around profitability and etc., but also on the impact that we are making and can potentially make.
Yes, thank you. And for Alexandra, because now it comes to you naturally, because I think your role is also to invest in like software companies. I think in your case, mostly B2B software.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does actually software mean to you?
Yeah, so for software, I think the reason we invest in B2B software at Fortino is because it's predictable, it's scalable, and it's resilient. So those are topics that are important and that we see the value in. But then ultimately you can build recurring, again, predictable businesses with a sticky customer base. I think what the value of the underlying software means is that you cannot cover up a terrible product with a great go-to-market strategy, right? So the underlying value of the software in the end lies also in the quality of the product.
Okay. And now we also know that there is a life phase as well for such a venture. So for Yannick, I'm also curious about then in your case, because you in your world you jump into a situation where software can be a liability in your case instead of an asset. So I think I'm also curious about your perspective. What does software value mean to you?
The short answer would be business value, but it's directly linked to Alexandra said, stating the obvious: no business value, no software value. But for me also at Mutares is stability and simplicity. Why is that? And we're also jumping on the fact that yes, software can be a liability or at least operational risk for me, is we are buying distressed companies. So at day one, just after the closing, this is where my nightmare comes true. And what I find out usually is an old application landscape. And old means I saw software that I never heard before, usually highly customized. Business rules are hard-coded in the code base. And the knowledge is in the head of one person who is usually close to retirement. Welcome. And of course, my boss at Mutares don't understand anything about what I'm doing. Of course, this is my job to deal with IT, but this is the kind of situation I have to deal with, not on a daily basis, but on a regular basis at least. This is why when I find stable application landscape, I'm quite happy, because I know that basically I buy sometimes to transform the application landscape and usually rationalize this. This is why for me stability and simplicity is important. And this is where the software value comes from.
Okay, thank you.
In my world.
Yes, that's amazing to share. Thank you for sharing.
How big
question.
are
Yes.
typically the teams at Mutares if you acquire this company and it's based on this so that is going on pension? Do you bring in your own people? Do you still use the people involved, or
It depends, but what is fun, if I can say that in my job, is that there is no similar. One carve-out to another is definitely a different, completely different world. So yes, sometimes I can bring my own people or partner I'm used to work with to say, I trust you. I know you can help me doing this stuff. Please find someone who can replace this guy, take his knowledge, transfer the knowledge, and make sure that we have a business continuity plan. Sometimes this is on my own to do that, but also sometimes when I'm even more lucky, I can find an IT team on site with the local management, and I can build on that.
Yeah.
So there is different cases.
Yes. Okay, I think you sparked the conversation. Therefore, we can have one more. Yes.
I have a small question. How do you balance the fact that it's a money-losing company with the fact that obviously the IT budget will be very constrained, right?
Very limited. Yeah.
Yeah, very limited. So how do you balance the investment required to transform the landscape into what you desire and the limited budget? Because
I try to invent the magic wand to do that, but for the moment I'm not really successful. The real answer is this is always a balanced situation. If there is, what I try to do, what I try at least to avoid, is to start a new transformation project in the middle or at the beginning of a major restructuring phase. I'm sure if you're all IT professional, you know that a major IT transformation program, just like a new ERP implementation, this is not just an IT project. This is first a business project. But when the business is in the middle of a restructuring phase, they have other topics to be managed than joining your workshops, define the new business rule, and so on and so on. So what I try to avoid is to launch this kind of project at day one. But basically, this is all about roadmap and forecast. When we are ready, if I have no other choice than to start a new ERP project, then okay, I have to do that. It will be complex, but this is part of my job. If I have the luxury of the choice, then I build a roadmap, and maybe we will start a new ERP implementation in 6 months, 10 months. But this is always about simplicity. It's one of the answers of the software value is simplicity. And I like to apply the KISS principle, keep it stupid simple.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes?
Don't you think that keeping things simple is very complicated?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But this is why this is part of my job, to make it simple for other people to understand that, yes, it could be really complicated.
Okay. Now we are going to move into the next part of our panel discussion. I'm going to say some statements, and then we will ask the panelists to share their thoughts about those statements. And since we are talking about value, right? Value means can mean the customer value that we deliver, the impact, could be the reliability, the scalability of the software, or how simple it is, or how simple it can be. And so my first statement is, in tech due diligence, what's not said matters more than what is. Okay? So I will repeat one more time, and I will ask, Alexandra to answer first. In tech DD, what's not said matters more than what is. So, because I think your job is to do a lot of this. So what's your view on this one?
I think a lot about the tech to do has just been answered by Yannick, to be honest, because there's a couple red flags that come up more often than not, and one of those is tech debt and the amount of tech debt. But I think what's more important, and that's not always what's said, is what do you actually do with that tech debt? Do you have a plan to address it? And also, one big flag for us is if you try to downplay your security issues, if you try to downplay potential scalability issues in your product. If you're honest about what's there, and if you have a clear roadmap to address it, it becomes less problematic for an investor, and it also creates a trust relationship. So that's, I think, a part that should be discussed more than not. And a second point is that combining technology with business sense. So if you have a conversation just about the technology, you forget the business impact. That's a part that's not always addressed in conjunction, but they are very meaningful being discussed together. What is the actual business impact of our technology decisions? So those, I think, are 2 points that are,
Yes. And now I would love to ask then Abhishek, because you heard the investor perspective about TechDD. So as a founder, a different perspective then. So what do you wish investors actually ask during the DD phase?
Good question. So in my current company, actually, we've just done a demo and showed a data catalog because we raised like a couple of years ago and we were very tiny. So after that, we've kind of grown on revenues. But in my previous companies, I think we had like 2 whole days of tech DD with some strategic investors. So let me just try to recollect that. So I think a lot of it was just around fear of the unknown, so to say, what's hiding. there always will be tech debt, right? Ultimately, I think especially as a growing company, I as an entrepreneur do believe that if there is demand and somebody is paying for something, good entrepreneurs, decently good entrepreneurs will figure out a solution to it, right? It won't break the company or the product, right? If there is demand. I think the second part, if you're building something without creating any business value for anybody just for the sake of building, that is probably much, much worse, right? So
Yeah.
I do believe there always will be tech debt. There will be some security issues. Not everything can be fixed. Hackers are getting smarter day by day, right? So there'll always be something that will not be perfect. But I do feel that there's a fear of the unknown. So I think being honest and open about it is totally okay. I mean, if there is customer demand, if the technology is solving a real customer problem, or as the hypothesis in early stages companies, mostly a hypothesis that there is a problem existing, or at least I've talked to like 20 customers who say this is a problem and I'm looking to solve it. I think that is more important. But I do believe, especially in the stuff that we are doing right now, JetLearn, we're still growth stage company, much, just a few million in revenue. But I would appreciate if investors actually sat on our side of the table and saw that we have so much data now about learning impact from 60 different countries, different education systems, different ages. So how can we make more use of that data to improve customer outcomes, maybe develop new products to kind of still maintain the data sanctity, security, but to create more value for educational systems globally. So that is a conversation that I would personally appreciate with a very knowledgeable investor who's seen this world from different industries.
Yes, nice to hear. So also for the investors to be more thinking more from also the founder's perspective.
Yeah, ultimately, if the investor comes on the cap table, we are partners,
Yeah,
right? We're in it
exactly.
together for the next half a decade at least, right?
I have a small question. Do you hope that the investor also helps you with analyzing the data, or do you hope more like a sparring partner? What do you search in an investor?
I would probably take up the analogy that Ivy said. I'm the one rolling up the sleeves. I don't want anybody else to, but sparring partner definitely, right? Because a lot of people have seen different industries, especially what things have worked there, how data has been used. Maybe there's certain tools that other companies have used. So I think sparring partner is definitely, and then kind of benchmarking partner, because sometimes as entrepreneurs we are very, how do I say, have tunnel vision also, which is good in some ways, right? We are only focused on one ICP, one customer. Sometimes we don't see the world outside. So I think getting those benchmarks, industry best practices to us is definitely helpful. Yeah. But then we are the one, I don't expect any investor to do the work for us. And that's probably not good also, because again, we know our customer the best. Otherwise, the investor has chosen us wrongly. We should know our product the best, obviously, right? And the problem that we are solving the best. But I think having a sparring partner, an ideation partner, in the sense that what more can be done, right? How can you serve your customers better? How can you serve more customers? I think that is definitely helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Then Yannick, I will still have a quick check on you for this one. So TechDD, what do you think for your cases? Did you, because of the TechDD and then you turned disaster into a win, or how do you approach tech?
Before joining Mutares, I joined. I worked for different consulting companies. When performing in due diligence, IT due diligence or tech due diligence, usually it was something like 30 to 60 slides in a deck with all the red flags identified and the so what and the consequences. Blah, blah. At Mutares, when I worked with my investment colleagues or M&A colleagues, what they ask me is two numbers, just two numbers. What is the cost of the carve-out? What would be the profile of the IT recurring cost after the carve-out? So I have no slides to produce, so it makes my life much more easier. but I have to manage the numbers. I can't just roll a dice, say, oh, 22, okay, let's 22 million. No, I can't do that, not for the moment at least. But yeah, this is how we approach TechDDs.
Okay, thank you. And that brings me to the next statement. So yeah, that's for you to answer first. So the statement is, if you want long-term value, invest in short-term pragmatism. Yes, so everybody gets that? Okay.
Can you repeat it, sir?
Okay, one more time. If you want long-term value, invest in short-term pragmatism. So pragmatic things. Yeah. So Yannick, I think because you just mentioned, so avoid big transformation, looking about long-term big things. So if you go in, you will just do something. What would?
In fact,
Yes.
through the question we had in the
Yeah.
previous questions, I already kind of answered this question. What I thought to do.
Yes.
I had to act fast
Yes.
because we are dealing with distressed companies. We have no time to lose because we are dealing with the survival of the company. So we have to act fast. But because I usually find complex IT situation, I also have to take my time. So I have to balance, act fast with no rush, to find the most pragmatic solution with heavy budget constraints. And so yes, this is what I have to do on the daily basis, and this is why usually I start to build a plan, the roadmap for the coming 2 weeks, for the coming 3 months, and for the coming 3 years. First, deal with the potential operational risks because of the old ERP or highly customized and so on and so on. Start working on the carve-out because we want to exit TSA as fast as possible. I guess that everybody is familiar with TSA, Transition Service Agreement, the fees that we pay to the mother company to have business continuity with the IT landscape. So deal with operational risks, plan for the carve-out, and then plan for the transformation 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Nutshell.
Yes, and I think for Alexandra, for you, the long term and balancing the long term, like oftentimes you have founders pitching the great visions, but you still need to balance that with maybe the short term execution. How do you do that?
Yeah, so I think we invest in founders with a vision, right? That's what we like and what we go for. But then the next step is, what can we already do to achieve that vision this year, this month, or today? So breaking down a vision into small steps so that you keep moving forward towards that vision on a daily basis. And I think practically, currently with all our portfolio companies, we're building out AI roadmaps. And AI roadmaps can sound daunting and big because you want to have an AI first product or an AI native or whatever you want to go for. But starting small means looking almost in a matrix structure on what are the high impact, like what is easy to deploy or relatively easy to deploy, fast to deploy, but it has a high impact. Move with those first and then start moving up towards those longer term projects which still have a high impact but are more difficult to deploy. So that's a more practical version of how to balance vision with short-term.
Seems
steps.
like both mentioned certain common elements in this discussion. And from Abhishek's perspective, how about you? Because you are the one who will also need to balance, features, foundations, tech debts, a lot of things on your
it's
plate.
super surprising. I mean, we are a 3-year-old company, but the technology landscape has changed so much that some parts of our product seems legacy now, even like such a young company, right? So things are changing very fast. I think I would really echo what Alexandra said, right? I think the vision is very important, but then every day we need to take one step towards that vision, right? Be it technology, be it creating customer value. So I think, the vision is what keeps us, because the day-to-day is most often it is very daunting, right? Especially as a small company, right? Every day there's some struggle. We are low on resources. Something is not nothing is perfect ever, right? So that vision is what gives us energy, right? We're building something that will have a big impact in the world, and in that process make all the stakeholders financially successful also. But the big vision is very important, but then taking that one small step every day. But there's also a certain element which is not easy to do, but there's also a certain element of creative destruction. If we build something, how do we, I would say, destroy it or let it go, and then kind of there's something better. It's easier to do in the earlier stages, but when we have legacy, not in just in code, but in people. People are mentally very tied that this is something that this is how it worked. I built it. This is how it worked, and this is how it should go. So I think that is a very, very big challenge to manage, and I think that will be a big issue in the next few years, especially when I think a lot of these traditional software companies will be replaced by AI native versions, and people who are not able to, let's say, change the culture or do some creative destruction will find
We'll
tough to
have a
survive.
difficult time.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned a topic that was also mentioned earlier in the presentation is to let go sometimes. You build something, but at some point it's hard to let go. And when Yannick is entering those companies, you will also check, okay, what are the, you will look at the portfolio, what makes more sense to keep, what not. And that brings me to the final statement, because it's also about the talent, right? And we are thinking about the future today altogether, because I do notice in this room, together we have a lot of power you might not be aware of, like from the expertise, maybe the capital, the resource you could leverage, or your experience here. So if we think about the future, the statement is the next unicorns won't be built on legacy code. They will be built on future-ready minds. So Abhishek, you will be the first one to answer this one. I will repeat one more time. The next unicorns won't be built on legacy code. They will be built on future-ready minds. So because you are helping, right, our future generations to be more adaptive. How do you cultivate that mindset? Or
Yeah, I mean, I totally believe this, that, some of these things are becoming a commodity, right? I don't think in 10 or maybe 20 years from now, people will say we are an AI native company. No company says today I use electricity, right? So I think it will be the same in 20 years from now. No company will need to say we use AI, you have to use it, right? So that makes this superpower, when you think about it, 200-300 years ago, meaning nobody used electricity, but now so this will be a superpower which will be accessible to everybody, right? But then what do we do with the superpower? What problems do we solve, right? I think unicorn is fine, meaning it's let's say a milestone, but there's certain problems around access to financial inclusion, healthcare, energy, education. So I think these are very important problems to solve with a global impact. And in the process, a lot of people will build unicorns, decacons, and then they should. But my belief is that, and that's what I'm dedicating my energy to, is that how do we, inculcate a sense in young minds today, even in teenagers, or both, that technology is a superpower for me. Today I'm learning about technology in a very fun and engaging way, but I'm also getting exposed to certain problems around healthcare, around education, that, in 10-20 years, this will be my life's mission to solve, right? Just an example, one of our learners, last year, he was taking a robotics course from us, and combining AI and robotics, he had built a prototype of a robot which cleans oceans, right? Today, right now, he's in Dallas participating at the it's like an Olympics for robotics, right? So these are the kids, and I have many more examples of these also. But I think these are the kids who will create an impact on the world. They will have a sense of how do I say this? Have a sense of making an impact in a positive way. And again, it's slightly negative, but I spent 10 years in a Silicon Valley, and most of the smartest brains for almost a decade were figuring out ways to sell more ads. With Facebook, Google, that's what they're pretty much doing, Twitter, even now, right? But I think one of the things that we need to do is also that, how do we, at a young age, also inspire kids to think about big problems around healthcare, access, education, but also big opportunities. I think space exploration, multi-planetary species is a big opportunity which will happen in the next 100 years. But how do we kind of excite people to take on those challenges also? I think that is also super important that we at JetLearn are trying our best to kind of do at this stage.
Yes, thank you. And Alexandra, and then I think hearing the stories, and I know that for those companies that are at the growth phase, how do you then help them with the talent agenda?
Yeah, I think, so I fully agree with this statement, and I'm going to make a cliche one to add to it, is people are the most valuable asset of a company. And it is cliche, but it is true. So at Fortino, we spend a lot of time with management teams before investing to really understand the management team, also try to get access to C-1, and really understand what the team dynamics and the culture is of a company to see whether it aligns with ours and whether we believe in the potential. And then once we're investor, we have a lot of different topical summits. So tomorrow it's actually our CPO, CTO summit. We have a lot of different days to bring the network together, because that's one of the values as a B2B software investor. We can bring all our companies together and learn from each other, because that's, in the end, if people are the future, then let's bring them together and have them learn from each other, both from that network, but also internally in organizations, keep room to grow and to learn and provide that space to learn in an organization.
Yes, thank you. Like, we're trying to do the same today
100%.
to bring you all together. And I will open the floor for questions, but I want to hear also from Yannick. So in your case, the talent, like, did you assess how adaptable those people are? You say, okay, those are stubborn ones. Okay, then we will put in a different category. That's my assumption. But how do you deal with this in the distress situations or transformation situation?
But I fully agree with what has been said before, especially with Alexandra. I'm dealing in the tech complex situation, but everything is about the people. Again, when I'm lucky, I can have some IT resources with the transaction. So I have a local IT team to deal with the daily activities. Usually, I'm not so lucky, so I have first to recruit the IT team to be for the company to be autonomous and a standalone company. But it's all about the people, and this is why mainly I also previously explained that we are not starting major transformation project in IT, such as ERP implementation, during restructuring phase, because during a restructuring phase, with all the business function of a company, whether supply chain, logistics, finance, you name it, people have their daily activities to manage. The restructuring phase, how to improve efficiency, processes, and so on. And if I add on top of that a major transformation project on ERP, then I'm going to kill everybody. And this is not my point. I need those people to continue with the company and make sure that from a distressed company, we move to the growth company.
Thank you. So I think these are all the statements I have for today, because I would love to ask if anyone wanted to ask one or two questions. Yes, please.
From my experience, a lot of those mergers acquisitions fail, maybe even up to 50%. What's your experience?
I think we're going to have different answers.
Which is,
So just to make sure, you mean that 50% of the acquisition failed, right?
Yeah, and then maybe they fail because the people leave, the customers are unhappy, and there's this zero growth in the revenue after a few years. And that, I mean, to me, that's not success.
Do you want to start
Are you
one
saying
thing, or
that that's the trend in acquisition?
I mean, in the past 5 years, that would be an overall summary of what I've seen.
I'm happy to say that we haven't. I don't think we agree from a Fortino perspective, luckily. What you sometimes hear is that mergers and acquisitions or buy and build, combining platforms, that can be difficult. And that I recognize, and then it's really important to spend the time to find the synergies between the two companies and spend the time ahead of the acquisition to realize the overlap between teams, the complementarity, and also from a technology perspective, think about how and to what extent do we want to integrate. Do we want to migrate all the customers onto one platform? Do we want to integrate or create a front-end layer, or also go into the back-end, which is usually more difficult. So thinking about it beforehand a lot and discussing, putting the teams together is going to help create that success. But it is, I can agree that that's important to make it happen or make it successful.
Yes. And Yannick wants to add?
I would say that also with my Mutares perspective, so maybe it's not true for all the private equity companies. Yes, sometimes our restructuring phase are really complicated, but I would not say that 50% of our restructuring companies failed. Or maybe because we are lucky, or maybe because we are doing a good job. But we are buying distressed companies. So we are also dealing with the survival of the company. And we usually also to add on your comment, we usually don't do build up. Yeah. We don't merge companies. We are buy standalone company from larger groups who are in a complex situation again. So we are trying to restructure them. Yes, sometimes we fail because we acquire the company maybe too late, but usually we are successful. We are not transforming always. I'm going to use the word of one of Mutares board member. We usually transform coal or carbon into diamond. We are not always transform the company into real diamonds, but maybe something more valuable than the coal that we buy at the starting point.
No, nice big job.
I also have a perspective on that actually,
yes.
if I may.
Yeah, sure.
So for many years, this style, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, companies, so big corporates were buying other companies, and the M&A team in charge of the deal, then they just handed over to the business and good luck. So there was no integration done whatsoever. But
that's still happening, huh?
Yeah, and then that's recipe for not delivering the synergies. So whether it's failure or not, that's recipe for delivering nothing and letting people leave and so forth and destroying value. But more and more companies, also corporates, get their own integration team, not just to do the deal, but also to integrate and get the. So I see that more and more, even big corporates in the Netherlands.
Yes, I think SSG as well. So if we do DD, we have more post-deal roadmap inside and in mind. I think that's more and more common nowadays for the advisors as well. I do see a final question. Yes.
Yeah, for all three panel speakers, I guess.
Okay.
As an investor or as a founder, what do you hope that the investor brings to the table? And as an investor, what do you bring to the table other than money or your network? Because I think that in the current situation, if you have that much dry powder, money obviously easy, but the other things, what else would you bring to the table for every one of you? So why should the founder work with this party?
All right, so that's keep it short because of the time. So some keywords maybe and or a few sentences. Abhishek, you want to go first?
I think money is important. Right?
That's a short answer. Good.
For an investor, in short. No, but I'm lucky to have really good angel investors and some professional investors who've helped us a lot in evaluating strategic options. Right. For me, the best. The reason I became an entrepreneur, I don't want to take orders from you. So I don't I personally don't want an investor to tell me what to do, but help me think through problems, challenges, opportunities, right? Okay, this is a possibility. I've seen this at other people. So I think having that for me, and I think it's my responsibility to build that kind of a relationship with my investor, right? Where they're a coach, they've seen multiple scenarios, they've seen other industries. Yeah, I mean, their job is to invest and kind of, look at, I've seen maybe 1 or 2 companies, right? So a lot to learn, but I think it's my responsibility to build that kind of relationship. But I can be a thing as founders, it's a bit challenging in the sense that you cannot never be vulnerable and share challenges. So I think that a lot of it is personal relationships that can and should be built. It's not the easiest thing to do, but can share problems, opportunities, and then get real, honest, hard feedback about how I can think through those challenges, evaluate options, and kind of implement them.
So next to the financial instruments, also that coaching at the sparring partner areas.
Yeah, and I also think that's the responsibility of the founder to kind of find that 1 or 2 right people to do it.
Yeah, and Alexandra?
Yeah, so unfortunately, just money is not enough. Indeed, there's a lot of dry powder. No, but I think it also makes your job more interesting, right? I think indeed being that sparring partner for your portfolio companies, and also us being a B2B software investor, we only focus on software. That means that I see a lot of different software companies and can share learnings. And when we go deep into certain topics, I will bring my operating team instead of the investment team. So those are people who've worked on either product side, tech side, go-to-market, recruiting, different experts for different areas.
Yes. And Yannick, in your case?
My answer would be more or less the same.
Yeah.
Money first.
Money
is important. But then also experience and expertise. Maybe to be more concrete on that, based on the current situation I'm dealing with, this is a French company in medical equipment, leasing of medical equipment. I inherit, it's a 60-70 million euro revenue company, so quite small, not that big at least, but inherited with 40 or 50 different applications, 50 different software. And you can imagine that to deal with this complexity, plus we have something like 50 agencies in France, so we have to reconnect everything. So I have to deal with the network, with infrastructure, with recruiting the IT team. I don't know how many of you already have to deal with an IT carve-out project. This is really complex, and even when I have an IT manager on site, this is the kind of expertise I can bring to the company, because usually the IT manager, I have no clue on how to manage this kind of complexity. He's very good to manage the daily life, the daily activities, and is doing a really good job sometimes. But dealing with this complexity, that level of complexity, is something that we bring, and this is true in my IT area. But it's also true for my other colleagues who came with on supply chain, finance, manufacturing, HR, and so on and so on.
Yes, thank you. So this wraps up our panel discussion and our session today. Big thanks for our speakers here.